Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this fourth lecture on the first chapter of introduction, and so this is the last lecture of this chapter, and in this lecture we will be focusing on the various literature sources, the data sources as well as internet sources which are related to groundwater. And now let us come to the various sources. As we all know, so this groundwater, it forms one of the major component of fresh water. So therefore, right from the beginning of the human society, there have been attempts to estimate or document or even present so the various phenomena related to groundwater, and it is always this groundwater is in combination with surface water. So therefore, so there have been various right from the human the beginning of the human history. So there have been attempts, and many of them are even now. So they are existing, and let us come to first let us come to this the various literature that are available in this on groundwater. Firstly, it is the I would like to start with the oldest ones chronologically. It is the ancient books and other traditional knowledge sources. So these are essentially in all the regions where the human civilization started. Say for example, all the river valley civilizations, whether it is the Indus River Valley civilization in the present day India and Pakistan, or whether it is the Mesopotamian river valley civilization in Iraq, or it is the Nile river valley civilization in Egypt. So wherever this river valley civilization started, so along with that, so there the documentation of the groundwater related phenomena as well as the groundwater related structures and all those things started. So here we can mention, so in the Indian context we can mention the Brihat Samhita written by Varaha Mihira actually, and of course the original Sanskrit text, it has been translated, and many commentaries have been written because and here. So because the property of Sanskrit language in which maximum meaning is conveyed in minimum letters, words and sentences. So there is a lot of room for interpretation. So many interpretations have also been written, and coming to this, and also another example I can give is the Saraswati river in the India, which was earlier it was believed to be a tributary of Indus, and presently it is believed to be it is a tributary, that is an unseen tributary of river Ganga, joining as a third that is underground stream along with Yamuna in the city of Allahabad. So here, so this, and there have been the problem with these traditional as well as ancient sources is many of them are underdocumented or undocumented, but still there are many proofs. Say for example, the entire Rajasthan in the entire state of Rajasthan. So, the present day in the middle of Rajasthan, so there is what is presently known as Ghaggar river catchment. So, there is an ample groundwater reserve available, and even now, so there have been many studies by few studies by the Space Application Center Ahmedabad of Indian Space Research Organization. So, they are trying to bridge the gap between this undocumented or underdocumented ancient sources, and I am sure this is the same case with whether it is the Mesopotamian river valley civilization in the present day Iraq, or the Nile river valley civilization in the present day Egypt, or even other the Chinese ancient river valley civilizations, or even the other one like the Israel and so on. So, now let us come to the other sources other than these ancient books and traditional as one. So, it is the books and handbooks, and there have been many books and handbooks on groundwater written almost in the past say 150 to 200 years, either as a part of the water resources or hydrology or hydraulics books, or exclusively as a part of groundwater. And also there have been many handbooks which contain not necessarily on groundwater, other phenomena such as the handbook of hydrology, the handbook of hydraulics, or handbook of say water resources, and all this. So, they also constitute a very large amount of literature on this one. Next is it is the journal publications, and it has been mentioned that in the past 150 years or so, so there have been many journals related to hydrology, hydraulics, or water resources, groundwater, and so in these journals or water resources economics, in these journals more than say 55,000 articles. They may be full length papers, or they may be discussions, or they may be other case studies. So, they have been published, and it constitutes even a large source of literature. And now let us come to the other publications, which is the conference publications. And it has been in the past say 100 years or so, a large number of conferences have been organized on water related issues, on hydrology, on hydraulics, on water resources economics, groundwater, and so these publications conducted by organized by various national as well as international bodies. So, they also present a large source of literature. Next, it comes to the publications from the United Nations affiliated bodies. So, here, so there is what is called the UN Water, which consists of say 28 United Nations bodies, and out of them the 3 important ones I would like to list here, which is the UNESCO, United Nations Economics, this educational scientific cultural organization headquartered in Paris, France, the World Meteorological Organization WMO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, that is in headquartered in Rome, Italy. So, these are some of the three main UN organizations in the which constitutes a 28 United Nations bodies constituting collectively what is known as UN Water. Also, next it is the publications from government agencies, and in this case the governments, depending upon their technical capabilities in the countries such as USA or many European countries, Japan, the former Soviet Union, the present Russia, as well as the Council of Independent States, as well as the groundwater board, Central Groundwater Board in India. So, their publications, so they may be in the form of handouts, or they may be in the form of books, or they may be in the form of say maps, or they may be in the form of tables or charts or predictions. So, all these they also constitute an important form of literature pertaining to groundwater. Next, let me list here the publications from non-governmental organizations as well as agencies. In addition to the governmental organizations, so there have been many non-governmental organizations involved in the water sector. So, they have brought out their own publications. They may be again books, or they may be guidelines, or they may be other resources for conserving, other handouts or manuals to conserve groundwater, to conserve surface water in conjunction with groundwater. And in this I would like to mention, so in the Indian context I would like to mention the Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi, as well as the Gandhi Peace Foundation. So, as well as so there are many other bodies which work in the area of water. So, their publications, their books, handouts, their other maps, and so these are also various. And coming to next is the publications by corporate organizations and their collaborators. So, here I would like to mention the publications brought out by this World Bank, Asian Development Bank, as well as other financial institutes or corporate bodies which are involved in this funding various projects related to water resources, groundwater, hydrology, hydraulics, and so on. And so, they also form a very important source of groundwater. And lastly, I would like to mention here all other sources, even a simple this newspaper article pertaining to say groundwater, or groundwater in conjunction with surface water and other one. So, the magazine articles as well as the popular science articles, and as well as the popular TV programs such as on the Discovery Channel, the programs which are aired on the Discovery Channel, and other such educational TV programs. So, they also form a very important source of literature pertaining to groundwater. And in the and added to this is the recent impact of climate change, and so which has resulted in the constitution of bodies such as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So, they have brought out many publications, case study scenarios, future case study scenarios. So, all these form an important sources of literature available on groundwater. So, and as we should be aware that the these literature pertain to the groundwater which is below the surface of earth, and obviously, so the as I am reminding right from lecture 1. So, there are more in so groundwater represents the invisible or say less visible domain of water resources. So, there is more room for uncertainty, and then more room for say error, and there is more room for speculation and all this. So, therefore, so all this literature which is available, which I have mentioned here, should be taken with a pinch of salt. Of course, they have to be verified, so their authenticity, their applicability, as well as their usefulness need to be verified using the basic principles of science, engineering and technology. And so, we should always bear in mind that so these groundwater resources, the literature on groundwater, so it should be relevant, it should give the useful information, and it should also be willing to stand the test of time in a limited time horizon at least. Now, let us come to the various data sources which are available on groundwater. So, in this as I mentioned in the literature which I was mentioning a few minutes back. So, in all this literature, so there are a large amount of data sources which is available in the form of say graphs, maps, as well as tables and nomograms and other one. And here, so in this case, so there we should also I would also like to mention here some of the traditional knowledge bases which may be undocumented or underdocumented. Say for example, in the Indian context, so there is a popular belief that the water from Ganga in the north is going to join the waters from the South Indian rivers or the rivers in the other regions of India such as in the west and as well as in the south. So, of course, there is a need to scientifically verify these kinds of popular beliefs, but at the same time, so there is no harm in studying initiating studies which there is a possibility if that they may provide to be a good source of data for addressing the quality as well as quantity issues in groundwater. So, here coming to the data sources, the data presented in books, the data presented in handbooks, as I mentioned. So, there are various handbooks which are published on groundwater or hydrology, hydraulics or one, as well as the data presented in journal. And here we should also remember that data does not essentially mean the numerical data. It may also include the data presented in the form of graphs, in the form of charts or in the form of maps, in addition to the statistical or numerical data, as well as the data published in the presented and published in the conference publications or say symposia or seminar and all these. So, they constitute the major sources of data available on groundwater. Next, it is the data presented or data which is available from the UN affiliated bodies. As I was mentioning, it is the UN water consisting of say 28 UN bodies. Out of them, so few that is I have already mentioned about say UNESCO, the World Meteorological Organization, the Food and Agricultural Organization. You may wonder why this Food and Agricultural Organization is also such a major response, because so water goes hand in hand with food. So, and for growing food, so the water is a major requirement, and so therefore, the food and agriculture represents a major consumer of water resources. So, therefore, Food and Agriculture Organization, so they have evolved their own methods for estimating the water which is available at present, as well as estimating water in the immediate future. So, therefore, and added to that, so there are say the UNESCO it has a special portal on water, and in this UNESCO water portal, so the discharges of the various rivers, the maximum discharge, the minimum discharge, the annual maximum discharge, the annual minimum discharge, as well as the monthly average discharge for for all the rivers in the world. So, they have been presented in tabular form, and so they include the largest river in the world in terms of discharge, that is the Amazon river in South American continent, which is the most water rich continent in the world, as well as the rivers which are flowing through the deserts in Africa, or in say few rivers such as the Nile river and so on. So, they have been also presented in this UNESCO, the discharges of selected rivers and so on. And so, there are other data like such as the World Water Assessment Program, the International Hydrology Program, that is IHP, the World Water Assessment Program, that is WWAP, the Global Water Partnership, which is the partnership between UN bodies such as World Meteorological Organization, UNESCO, as well as other World Food and Agricultural Organization. So, all this, so they constitute, they have presented the data related to groundwater in general, as well as groundwater and surface water in groundwater in particular, groundwater and surface water in general, in the form of various maps, charts, that numerical or statistical data, as well as graphs and so on. So, they constitute some of the major this one, and here I would also like to mention the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And coming to the other data that is available. So, here I would like to mention the data which has been published by the various government agencies. Say like in the Indian context, the Ministry of Water Resources, so they have published the data pertaining to the non-classified rivers. Unfortunately, so the Indian government is always associated with water conflicts with neighbors. Earlier it was Bangladesh, and presently it is also with Pakistan in terms of this one. So, therefore, for the non-classified rivers of India, so the data pertaining to groundwater as well as groundwater and surface water is published in what is known as the Integrated Hydrological Data Book, which can be easily purchased, or even it can also be downloaded as one. And in case of US, it is the USGS database. So, this USGS database, so it is one of the very extensive database which pertains to the rainfall or precipitation, as well as it pertains to runoff. So, here in terms of this rainfall, so all the 50 states, the 48 contiguous states of US mainland, so they have been divided into say various meteorological zones, and as well as smaller regions. So, depending upon the altitude of a region, the distance from the coast, as well as other features. So, this USGS database pertaining to precipitation, as well as the USGS database pertaining to the runoff. So, in which all the rivers have been classified into the different basins, and each river has been given an 8-digit code, the first 2 digits representing the basin, the third and fourth digit representing the sub basin, the fifth and sixth digit representing the mini basin or the small basin, and the seventh and eighth digit representing the micro basin or the smallest basin, which is also known as hydrologic unit. So, like this, every river tributary has been given a numerical code, and then accordingly, so its data has been the data pertaining to the surface water as well as surface water and groundwater in that basin has been presented. In the Indian context, it is the CWC database in India, which consists of the various gauging stations. So, these gauging stations have been divided into the gauging stations which provide the data on simply gauge as well as discharge, which is essentially surface water data, and there are a few gauging stations which also provide data in terms of gauge, discharge, then sedimentation and water quality, as well as the NRSA, the National Remote Sensing Agency, maps published in India. So, like that, so there have been other the data maintained and published by the river basin authorities such as the Bhakra Bias Management Board, the Brahmaputra Board, as well as the other the Narmada Control Authority or this one, and in case of say USA, it is the St. John's Water District in Florida, and so even in many other European as well as the Asian agencies, there have been many agencies which maintain the data related to river basin, and obviously they also maintain the groundwater related data in that particular basin. And in addition to this, so the data maintained by state and local government agencies. So, some of the state as well as local government agencies in developing countries such as India, the developed countries such as USA as well as Europe, Japan and other countries. So, they have maintained a very good data again in the form of say statistical data, graphs, maps, charts and all this. So, depending upon this one, they have a very good monitoring network, and so their data is also one of the. Next is the data from say non-governmental organizations or agencies. So, in this case in the Indian context, I would like to mention the citizens report brought out by the Center for Science and Environment. So far they have brought out the data book on the 5 citizens report on environment and the state of the environment, especially the 5th citizens report, which contains one source which is essentially the statistical data pertaining to say other environmental related issues, in which water in general and groundwater is also a very important. So, and of course, there are other non-governmental agencies working in the water sector. So, they have also brought out many, they have also collected and published data from their various studies. And next, it is the data from the corporate organizations and their water bodies. So, here I would like to mention the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank as well as other funding agencies which have funded various water resources as well as groundwater related programs. So, the surface water and groundwater interaction and all these so the data published from these also constitute and next is the data from other sources. So, here In this case, the data from other sources, it could be even say simple school textbook, or it could be from a TV program, the popular science program, or it could be from any other sources such as a newspaper article, or it could be even from this popular science fiction books, or even this one. So, they also have presented a large amount of data pertaining to groundwater. So, these are some of the data sources which are available in this groundwater. And now, let us come to the last part related to the groundwater data, which is the internet data source. As it is evident now, so the internet forms a large amount of data source, which is essentially it is an online library. So, earlier there used to be the actual libraries wherein the data in the form of say books or even say other databases. So, it was physically stored, and it was being accessed by various These days it is the internet, which is basically the information superhighway. So, in this, so there is a large amount of data source, and here I would like to mention the online libraries, the online databases maintained by the publishing the journal publishing houses, as well as various professional organizations, their websites, online libraries, databases, and so on. So, here, so it is the this is a vast source, and this most of the data which is available in the either as a literature or as a data source is also available in these days as a source on internet, and of course, due to their commercial one, so it may not be available fully, but at least a significant amount of that is available in the form of data source. Here in the journal publishing houses, I would like to mention here say two of the most important journals related to groundwater, that is the groundwater journal as well as the journal of hydrology. And so, these journals, so they have the groundwater journal, so they it maintains a large amount of database and online library, so which can be accessed by doing a simple internet search. And so, it contains the information about the books, the journal articles, the databases, as well as other sources, and so on. So, which is very much useful, especially in the areas, especially in places where we may not find the physical sources of groundwater related literature or data. And also this the UN agencies, so they have also maintained, and they are maintaining the online libraries as well as databases. I was mentioning the UN water consisting of say 28 United Nations bodies or agencies, and in this case the recent the IPCC publications, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the World Water Forum, its data, the Stockholm Water, and other this one. So, these also constitute a vast amount of internet sources. Next is the online libraries, the databases of government agencies. Some of the government agencies, especially in the US and other developed countries, so they maintain a large amount of database on the studies. And so, here I would like to mention the the USGS real time database, and in which we can get the data pertaining to the discharge of this in the river in the surface water bodies such as rivers, as well as the water table data in the observation networks, in these data stations or gauging stations. And so, there is here I would like to mention also about this WATSTORE. It is the National Water Data Storage and Retrieval System of USA, like that. So, there are other online databases, libraries, which constitute a large amount of data which is available online. So, coming to this the internet as well as the data sources, and in the Indian context, it is the here the National Center for medium range forecasting, weather forecasting. So, this is a center pertaining to, so here it the weather forecasting is done, and based on this weather, so depending upon that is the groundwater abstraction, making suitable assumptions in the surface water one. So, there is a possibility, there is a very good chance that we can do a reasonable estimate of the groundwater availability, the depth of groundwater, and as well as other as one. So, and there are also other agencies, say like in India, there is what is called the National Institute of Ocean Technology. NIOT in Chennai. So, they have done a very useful study on this desalination of seawater, so as to provide fresh water, and they have done a very good study on the freshwater seawater interface, and so it provides a very good this one, because it is mentioned that, so this in spite of all the studies on this all the studies as well as literature as well as data which is available on groundwater, which constitutes a major source of fresh water. So, still there is a need that because of the adverse impacts of climate change and global warming. So, the water resources, the fresh water resources are getting depleted quantitatively, as well as they are getting polluted qualitatively. So, therefore, so this the study on this freshwater seawater interface, as well as the study on desalination and using and generating fresh water, which obviously which is being done in nature in the form of hydrologic cycle. So, through evaporation, and then so the storage of the atmospheric moisture which has evaporated from the surface water bodies into the clouds, and then subsequent condensation and precipitation. So, here, so this desalination represents the artificial way of this one, that is the artificial replication of the natural hydrologic cycle or water cycle. So, and also it is said that in the world, so more than say 50% of the global population, it is estimated, the exact estimate is around say 60% of the global population lives in a region close to the coast, which is within say 100 kilometers of the coast. So, therefore, so there have been attempts in the Middle East as well as in India, in say USA as well as other regions on the this that is the desalination aspect as well as producing fresh water. So, it also represents a large amount of data pertaining to this one, and added to that. So, there have been say the artificial, say this is the groundwater recharge guidelines. Then guidelines for water harvesting, say guidelines for say groundwater pollution mitigation, etc. So, such guidelines have been published by various government agencies as well as various non-governmental agencies and other professional organizations. So, these guidelines, so they are based on the case studies which are existing, which are pertaining to groundwater, and so these also present a large amount of very useful information as to how to address the issues of the groundwater decrease in quantity as well as quality. And also there have been this other sources on groundwater, and many times so there are many undocumented or underdocumented this literature pertaining to groundwater, and many experts on groundwater. So, they have formed their own networks, and they have formed their own sources of literature or data, and many of these sources and literature. So, they are also available the online and this one. So, these form some additional sources of groundwater. So, essentially, so our objective is in this through this chapter 1, which is on introduction. In this we discussed about the background, we discussed about the historical background, we discussed about the groundwater utilization, we discussed about the groundwater, its position or its status in the hydrologic cycle. We also discussed the groundwater budget, which is based on the mass conservation principles. We discussed the groundwater level fluctuations and the environmental influence, and lastly we discussed about the various literature, data as well as internet sources or resources which are available related to groundwater. So, this completes the first chapter on introduction, and in the next chapter we will discuss on the occurrence as well as movement of groundwater. So, thank you, and so we will in the next the second chapter, the next lecture will be on the second chapter on say groundwater occurrence and movement. Thank you.